Good day, everyone. I am Juvenil Diri Castro, together with
Advic Rosie Magbiray.
and today we are going to discuss about the lacustrine systems. Let's start. So, what is lacustrine systems? The lacustrine system simply refers to lakes, which is a inland bodies of water that forms when water accumulated and is retained in a topographic way. Those. Ang mga lawa ay may bodies of water na nabubuo kapag naipon ng tubig sa mga low-lying parts ng lupa. Ang level at chemistry ng tubig sa mga lawa ay naa-adjust ng pagpasok at paglabas ng mga tubig dito. Ang inflow o pagpasok ng tubig ay galing sa mga ilog na nagdadala ng tubig at sediment mula sa paligid, pati na rin mula sa ulan at minsan mula sa groundwater. Ang outflow naman ay kapag lumalabas ang tubig sa lawa papunta sa mga ilog o natutuyo sa pamamagitan ng evaporation mula sa ibabaw ng lawa. Ang pangunahing sediment na makikita sa mga lawa ay buhangin lupa at putik, pero pwede ding may mga deposito ng asin at organic matters. Dahil dito, karaniwan nating makikita ang mga bato tulad ng sandstone, mudstone, limestone at evaporite sa lawa. Minsan may mga bato na may coal o mga source rocks para sa langis at gas. So, may mga iba't ibang paraan kung paano nabubuo ang mga lawa. Una na dito at ang pinaka-common ay ang tectonic activity. Dahil sa paggalaw ng lupa, nagkakaroon ng faults ang Earth's crust na nagkakos para maging subside ng lupa na nagli-lead para magkaroon ng basins na napupuno ng mga tubig. Faulting, kapag may bitak o fracture sa lupa at yung lupa ay nawawala or bumababa sa isang bahagi, habang ang kabilang bahagi naman ay tumataas or nag-stay. Ang depressed na bahagi na ito ang pinupuno ng tubig at nagiging lawa. Halimbawa nito ay ang Albert Lake sa Oregon na nabuo dahil sa tilted fault block. Rifting, ito ang proseso kung saan yung dalawang tectonic plates ay humihiwalay or nagkakalayo na nagre-resulta sa pagkakaroon ng sag or hukay sa pagitan nito. Ang mga ganoong rift valleys ay napupuno ng tubig at nagiging malalim at malahabang lawa. Halimbawa nito ay ang Lake Tanganyika sa East African Rift System at ang Lake Baikal sa Siberia. Excuse me. Next, erosion. Ang erosion ay isang proseso kung saan ang tubig, hangin o yelo ay unti-unting binubura or nililinis ang lupa at bato. In this case, may mga hukay o low areas na nabubuo dahil sa erosion, pero hindi ito kadalasang sapat para makabuo ng lawa na mag-isa. Halimbawa, ang mga ilog ay kadalasang umaagos sa mga daanan ng tubig, pero hindi ito nagre-resulta sa malaking lawa, maliban na lang kung may iba pang factors gaya ng pagbara or tectonic activity. Sa glaciers naman, kapag gumagalaw ito ng pababa, dahan-dahan pababa ng mga valley, ay binuburan nito ang mga lupa at bato sa ilalim na nag-iiwan ng malalim na hukay o depression sa lupa. Kapag umaatras o lumalayo ang mga glaciers, yung mga hukay ay napupuno ng tubig na nagre-result sa formation ng lake. Sa volcanic activity naman, kapag pumutok ang bulkan, may lumalabas na mainit na lava, apo at mga bato. Pwede nitong wasakin yung mga bundok o lupain na nagkakos ng pagkakaroon ng panibagong anyong lupa. Halimbawa, kapag pumutok ang bulkan at nag-collapse ang gitnang bahagi nito, nag-iiwan ito ng malaking hukay na pwedeng mapuno ng tubig at maging lawa. Ito ang tinatawag na crater lake. Isa sa mga example nito ay yung Crater Lake sa Oregon at ang Taal Lake dito sa Batangas. These are the examples of lakes formed from tectonic processes the Lake Tanganyika in the East African Rift Valley system, and the Lake Baikal in the Baikal Rift system in Siberia. At ang sa volcanic processes yung Crater Lake sa Oregon.
Let's move on to lake hydrology. Lake hydrology will focus on the water balance of lakes. It explains that lakes receives water from stream, groundwater, and direct rainfall. If a lake doesn't lose water through evaporation or sa outflow, its water level will rise until it reaches the spill point, which is the top of the natural barrier or sill surrounding the lake basin. Next, please. So, lake hydrology has two types. One of these is the open lakes. The characteristics of open lakes, which are also called hydrologically open lakes, is that open lakes have a continuous outflow of water. The water level in these lakes remains relatively stable because the amount of water entering the lake ay nanggagaling mostly sa mga ilog at ulan. Ito ay roughly equal to the amount ng water na nagli-leave sa pamamagitan ng outflow and evaporation. The shoreline of open lakes tend to remain consistent over time due to this balanced water flow. The sediments in open lakes are typically sandy or muddy. However, if there is not much sediment presence, chemical deposit can form instead. Another type of lake hydrology is closed lakes. The characteristics of closed lakes, also known as hydrologically closed lakes, is that unlike open lakes, closed lakes do not have significant outflow. As a result, their shorelines often change. More water leaves these lakes through evaporation than enters them through streams or rainfall. This process leads to a build-up of salts and minerals, making chemical deposits more common in closed lakes. However, they can still accumulate some sandy or muddy sediments.
Now, let's move to the types of lakes. We have freshwater lakes, saline lakes, and ephemeral lakes. First, the freshwater lakes. Most lakes fall under this category. Freshwater lakes have low salt content, so the water is clean and safe for animals, plants, and sometimes even for humans to drink. This lake gets their water from rivers, rainfalls, and underground springs. Halimbawa nito ay mga famous lakes sa Amerika like the Great Lakes or dito sa Pilipinas yung Taal Lake. And freshwater lakes usually have lots of life like fish and plants. This image explains the hydrology of freshwater lakes, focusing on the water stratification and layering in relatively static body. Freshwater lakes have relatively calm water compared to oceans with minimal tides or strong currents. Because of their smaller size, lakes usually have limited wave development and wind-driven surface currents are generally weak. This diagram shows the thermal stratification of layering of water in the lake by temperature. The upper layer, this part, the epithelium, this is where the temperature is warm because waves and circulation mix this layer well. Next, the thermocline, here in the middle, this is where there is a rapid change in temperature. Last is the hypolimnion, this part. This is the colder layer of the lake because it lacks circulation, and oxygen here gets depleted as bacteria consume it. The bottom of the lake in hypolimnion can become anaerobic, meaning oxygen-free. This happens as oxygen is used up but not replenished. allowing organic material to accumulate. This can lead to the formation of coal layers or sediment rich in organic matter. Next is the saline lakes. Saline lakes are salty lakes. Here, the water becomes salty dahil hindi umaagos palabas or walang labasan ng mga tubig at natutuyo lang dahil sa init ng araw. And as you can see in this figure, kapag nag-i-increase ang amount ng evaporation, for example, dito sa normal waters, nagsimula siya as calcium carbonate, and kapag magiging gypsum na nag-lead to halite. Same with sulfate and chloride waters, we use calcium carbonate, then gypsum, to sodium sulfates na nagiging halite. Ganun din sa sodium-enriched carbonate waters, we use calcium carbonate, soda salts, and then halite. We have three main saline lake types: the soda lakes, sulfate lakes, and salt lakes. We have soda lakes. Ang soda lakes ay mga lawa na sobrang maalat at may mataas na alkalinity dahil maraming minerals tulad ng bicarbonate at sodium carbonate. Ang mga minerals na ito ay hindi galing sa dagat, kaya unique sila at palaging makikita sa mga inland lakes na madalas natutuyuan at naiipunan ng asin. Next is the sulfate lakes. A sulfate lake is a type of lake where the water contains a lot of sulfate minerals. Compared to soda lakes, sulfate lakes have lower amounts of bicarbonate but are richer in magnesium and calcium. Because of this, they mainly produce minerals like gypsum and borabilite. These sulfate minerals form when water evaporates and leaves behind these minerals in the lake. In simple terms, sulfate lakes are salty lakes with special minerals made from sulfur and often found in areas where water evaporates a lot, leaving these minerals behind in the water and sediment. And last is the salt lake. Salt lake or saline lake is a lake with very salty water, much saltier than regular lakes and sometimes even saltier than seawater. This happens because the lake has no outlet, so the water flows in but can only leave by evaporating, leaving all the salts behind. Over time, this salt builds up in high concentration. So yung salt lakes ay tinatawag ay yung mga Dead Sea, kung saan kapag lumangoy tayo dito or napunta tayo sa mga Dead Sea, ay hindi tayo lulubog due to high concentration of salt. And the last type of lake is the ephemeral lakes. Ephemeral lakes are temporary lakes. These only appear if may malakas na ulan or snow melting. And unti-unti din natutuyo kapag mainit ang panahon. Ito yung mga lawang bigla-bigla na lang darating and nawawala din after some time. Madalas itong makikita sa mga desert areas or places na hindi palaging basa. Now, we will have a short icebreaker. The mechanics of this is may ipa-flash kaming riddles and ang unang makasagot ay may prize na shekels sa Grow a Garden. 1 trillion shekels. Pa-comment na lang po ng sagot sa comment section and doon namin i-check. Number 1. A farm where earth's crack deep, a waterbed where secrets keep. What am I? Next. I carved my hollow, gold and white, melted long ago, now waters hide. What am I? Next. When fire erupts, I take my shape in a crater water stream. What am I? Next. No rivers out, just salt and dry. Evaporation makes me cry. What lake am I? Number 5. Warm on top, cold below. Layers in me ebb and flow. What am I? Rivers slow as they meet me, dropping sand to build a sea. What formation am I? Okay, next. Tiny light builds stones with care. Calcium homes form everywhere. What sediment am I? 8. Number 8. Warm above, cold beneath. I'm layered like a red. What am I? Water flows through me free. Stable shores. Shores is where I be. What lake am I? And last number. I keep fossils safe inside. A muddy bed where frost abide. What am I? So, thank you for your cooperation. Don't forget to comment your answer to claim your prize. Let's continue. Lake margin clastic deposits. So, what are lake margin clastic deposits? These are sediments or particles like sand, silt, and clay that collects near the edges of the lakes, kind of like the lake shoreline or margin. Lake's margin setting. The shallow, marshy edges of some lake are called palustrine environments. These are wetland-like areas right next to the lake where water meets land, often muddy or swampy. Delta characteristics. When a water river flows into a lake, it slows down quickly because the lake water doesn't move as fast as the river. Because of this, the river drops its heavy sediment, sand, and gravel right at the river's mouth, forming a delta triangle. Forming a delta. These delta deposits can look similar to river deltas with lots of sediment. If it's windy, waves can move some of this material around the delta, reshaping it. Shore deposits and wind influence. The lake's shoreline sediment change based on how strong the wind is. If the wind is weak, you get fine sediments like mud and silt collecting near the shore. But if the wind is strong, it can push sand and other materials into beach deposits, basically sand that forms beaches. Delta formation. So when a river carrying a lot of sediments enters a lake, the water speed drops suddenly. This causes heavy sediments to fall out near the river's mouth and make a delta. The deep lake faces clastic sedimentation. Two main mechanisms. First, the suspended sediment plumes. This is like when rivers or winds stir up fine particles and keep them suspended in the water, forming plumes or clouds of sediments in the lake. These plumes usually stay above a special boundary in the lake called the thermocline, which separates warm water at the top from cold water below. Over time, these particles slowly settle down through the water and land on the lake floor, creating layers of mud. Density carrots. This process moves coarser, heavier sediments like sand and gravel along the lake floor. Think of it as a river of water mixed with sediment flowing downhill underwater. These currents can come from rivers bringing sediment into the lake, or from sediments that have been disturbed or diverted. As the flow slows, the sediment gets deposited in layers that gradually go from coarse at the bottom to fine at the top. This layering is called the graded bedding. So dito, fine sediments settle slowly from suspended plumes above the thermocline, while heavier sediments are carried across the lake floor by density currents to form graded layers. Next is the when do carbonates form in lakes? Carbonates tend to form in lakes when there isn't a lot of sediment like sand or mud coming in from land. In saline lakes, carbonates can form chemically just by the water's salt content. But in freshwater lakes, biological activity is the main way carbonates form because living things help build the carbonate deposits. Although shells from animals like clams, snail, and tiny creatures called ostracods contribute to carbonate sediment, the main source comes from algae and microbes. These organisms produce lime mud and create rock-like structures called stromatolites in shallow lake waters. And in shallow parts of lake, tiny living things like cyanobacteria and green algae grow and create structures called stromatolite. These stromatolites can look like mats or coating that stick to rocks at the bottom. So how does this happen? These tiny microbes and algae have tiny threads, or the filaments, that catch and hold tiny minerals particles called carbonates, which are part of limestone. Over time, the trapped minerals build up and form these stromatolite structures. Sometimes, these algae and microbes from small rounded grains called oncoins. These look like these look like tiny balls with many layers of carbonate minerals built around a small particle. In places where there is a gentle wave movement, tiny spherical grains called oits form. When they pile up, they create shoals called oolite shoals, which are like underwater sandbars made of carbonate grains. So basically, these tiny organisms help make carbonate rocks and build special structures in the shallow water of lakes by trapping minerals and coating particles.
So factors controlling lake sedimentation. One of these is physical process. This diagram shows a cross-section of a lake highlighting various factors that influence how sediments are deposited. These factors in physical processes include: first is water balance, the balance between precipitation, inflow like sa mga rivers or kaya sa streams, and evaporations na nakakaapekto sa water level and sa sediment transport. Another one is the thermocline. This is the boundary between warm surface water and colder, denser deeper water. It influences water mixing and sediment distribution. So for solar radiations controls water mixing, stratifications or layering of water, overturn and biological productivity, all of which affect sedimentation. For the waves, wave actions controlled by wind intensity, lake size or kaya yung pitch, and depth distributes sediments along the shoreline. The river inflow. Rivers bring sediment into the lake, and the sediment supply density, flow rates, and water balance influence sedimentation patterns. Lake depth. Lake depth controlled by tectonics and water balance affects the setting of suspended sediment. Setting of suspended sediment is that this setting contributes to sediment's accumulation. pH and ion concentration. These factors controlled by precipitation, water inflow, evaporations, and rates of chemical sedimentation. It influences chemical sedimentation processes. Turbidity. Turbidity, or the cloudiness of the water, affects light's penetration and biological productivity, influencing organic and chemical sedimentation. Organic sedimentation. The settling of organic matter contributes to sediment accumulation. So for ionic strength interflow, chemical sedimentation processes are influenced by ionic strength. Overall, this diagram explains that sedimentary processes in lakes involve a balance between clastic input from rivers, offshores, and longshores, redistribution of clastic by waves and wave-produced current, transport of flying plastic as turbide interflows, downslope movement of fine and coarse plastic by turbidity currents, and in situ production of biological and chemical sediments. Next factor is the chemical processes. So chemical processes control lake sedimentation. This diagram shows a cross-section of a lake highlighting a various chemical reactions and processes that influence how sediments are formed and deposited. These processes include landslide. Landslide, siya yung maaaring magpasok or mag-introduce ng material sa mga lakes, which can undergo chemical weathering and nagko-contribute sa sediment. For leaching of soluble salts from weathered bedrock can leach into the lake, contributing to its chemical composition and nakaka-influensya ng sedimentation. For photochemical reaction, sunlight drives photochemical reaction para mabago ang chemical compositions ng water and sediments. For oxygen diffusion from the atmospheres affects redox reactions in the lake. So for iron oxidizing bacteria, these bacteria oxidize iron, leading to the formations of iron oxides that can precipitate out of the water column. For algae and photosynthesis. Algae and photosynthesis consume carbon dioxide and produce oxygen, affecting the pH and redox conditions of the lake. For evaporations and precipitation. Evaporations concentrates dissolved salts, while precipitation dilutes them. For the gravitational settling, particles settle out of the water column due to gravity. So for absorption, mineral dissolutions, and subaqueous pyrite oxidation, these processes affect the concentrations of dissolved ions in the water column. For denitrification, denitrification removes nitrate from the water column. Groundwater influx. Groundwater can introduce dissolved ions and nutrients into the lake. So for bacterial iron reduction, bacteria can reduce iron, releasing it back into the water column. For last, bacterial sulfate reduction or methanogenesis. In anoxic conditions, bacteria can reduce sulfate or produce methane. This diagram also shows the epilemnium, which is the warm surface layer, hypolemnium, the cold bottom layer, and monomolemnium, permanently stagnant layer. So for the last factors, controlling lake sedimentation is the biological processes. Living organisms play a crucial role in lake sedimentation. They directly contribute to sediments by leaving behind shells, skeletons, and organic matter that become peat or coal. Additionally, their activities like photosynthesis help create mineral deposits, while specific organisms like diatoms form unique silica sediments. In lakes, plants can be preserved to form peat and coal. Also, because lakes are smaller and less chemically vapor than oceans, photosynthesis by plants strongly affects the lake's pH, which helps carbonate minerals to form. Finally, organisms like certain shellfish, shrimp, and worms mix up the sediment layers, disturbing their original structure. Let's move on to the characteristics of lacustrine deposits. One of the characteristics of lacustrine deposit is overfilled lake basins, a type of lacustrine deposits that are characterized by a continuous influx of water and sediments that surpasses the accommodation space, resulting in freshwater conditions, often hydrology, progradational shoreline architecture, and interbedded fluvial deposits. Another one is the balanced field lake. So balanced field lake basins features intermittently often hydrology, fluctuating lake water chemistry, thermal and chemical stratification, mixed progradational and aggradational architecture, and varied interbedding of clastic and carbonate strata. This type of basin occurs when sediments and water supply rates are roughly balanced with accommodation space. Last is the underfilled lake basins. Underfilled lake basins is a type of lacustrine deposits that are characterized by close hydrology without outflow. Without outflow, strong chemical layering, in high mineral content in lake water, and signs of drying like rocks. They show very different rock types and are often linked to evaporate deposits and tend to build up sediment by filling up in place, resulting in lakes that dry out sometimes, leaving behind dry lake beds called playas or salty brine pools. So for the life in lakes and fossils in lacustrine deposits. Fossils found in lake deposits such as gastropods, bivalves, ostracods, and arthropods sometimes occur in monospecific assemblage, meaning they are group of organisms that belong to the same species. They provide key evidence for identifying ancient lake environments, which despite being teeming with life, host fewer species compared to marine settings, and some organisms like brine shrimp arthropods flourish in saline-like environments. Another one is the algae and cyanobacteria. Next, please. Algae and cyanobacteria are important for lake ecosystems and sediments formation. Charophytes are a type of algae that are commonly found as mineralized remains in old lake sediments, indicating fresh or slightly salty water, while in cold nutrient-poor lakes, diatomites, that is silica-rich deposit, can form from abundant diatoms, creating bright, white, cherty beds. So for the characteristics of lake deposit, this outlines the key characteristics of lake deposits, which are sediments that accumulate in lake environments. Here's a breakdown of each point. For lithologies, the types of rocks that make up the deposits, these commonly include sandstone, mudstone, fine-grained limestones, and evaporites. For mineralogy, the mineral compositions can vary depending on the source rocks and the lake's chemistry. For the texture, the sands are typically moderately well-sorted, meaning the grain size are relatively uniform. For bed geometry, the layering of the sediment is often very thin-bedded, indicating relatively consistent depositional conditions. Sedimentary structures. Features formed during or shortly after deposition, such as wave riffles and very fine parallel lamination, either thin or even layers. So, paleo occurrence indicate the direction of water flow, in lake deposits. These are often few and may have limited paleo-environmental significance. For fossils, excuse me, common fossils include algal and microbial remains, along with less common shells. Color may be variable, but deep lake deposits may be dark gray due to the accumulation of organic matter. And lastly, the phases associations. Lake deposits commonly occur with fluvial or river, evaporite and aeolian or wind-blown deposits reflecting changes in the surrounding environment. So overall, this illustrates a cross-sections of ancient lake deposits. Next slide, please. Specifically show the Eocene epoch. It shows how lake environments change over time, leading to different types of sediment accumulations. Here's a breakdown. For the timeline, the left sides indicate the time period from the lower Eocene to the middle Eocene. For the lake type, the lacustrine label indicates a lake environment with changes from freshwater to saltwater conditions. For pluvial and alluvial pan, this represents river and stream systems that fed sediments into the lake basins from the sides. For lumantang or shale, represents a shale deposit formed in a freshwater environment during the lower Eocene. So another shale deposit is the Tifton Shale member. Silkenspec member, a significant deposit formed during a period of saltwater conditions in the lake. For the evaporites and oil shale, indicates a period of high evaporations leading to the precipitation of evaporite minerals like salt and the formation of oil shale. For the Laney member, oil shale, mudstone, and siltstones, it represents a later stage of lake depositions with a mix of oil shale, mudstone, and siltstone. For the scale, these diagrams includes a scales of 500 meter vertically and 50 kilometer horizontally to give a sense of the size of the deposits. So in summary, the diagram shows how a lake basin filled with sediments over time, with changes in water chemistry from freshwater to saltwater, influencing the types of deposits that form. The presence of oil shale indicates that organic matter accumulated in the lake, which was later transformed into oil. So that's it for the lacustrine systems. Hope you learned something in these discussions. And if you have questions and clarifications, feel free to use the comment section in this video. Don't forget yung sagot sa riddles. To claim your prize, add na lang po namin kayo sa Roblox. Thank you!